Hi guys, welcome once again to the Coffee and Hero Show on our YouTube channel. Hope everyone out there is keeping well. Recording this on Sunday, August the 16th. So just going to do our usual roundup of everything that's been happening in the store regarding the website, podcast, the Coffee and Heroes network, I suppose you could call it these days, given the amount of content we like to put out there. And we'll also go through the news from the past week. It hasn't been the best of weeks in general when it comes to the news stuff regarding some of the comic companies and different announcements and so forth, but I'll get to that in a bit anyway. I always like to start up front just regarding the shop. I mean, we had a really good busy week again this week. It was an unusual week with lots of graphic novel sales. We seem to be attracting more casual readers now, which is great to see. You know, we've always been a business that have relied very heavily on our regulars and consistent readers and weekly titles and all that kind of stuff. But it's nice to get those casual readers in, people who are maybe interested in getting into comics, who didn't really know where to start or were looking a bit of advice, which we're always happy to give. And we have things set up in the store, different displays, starting points if you want to get into indie comics, or starting points if you want to get into DC and Marvel, certain characters, that kind of thing. And then we always have our podcast recommendations. I have a little section in store for that as well, and it tends to be, certainly with a podcast, we always like to try and entice new readers and make it as easy as possible for them to get into it. So yeah, good busy week all around. Graphic novel sales, as I say, really, really high. We're ordering more and more graphics in every week at the moment. We're making sure we're getting the latest releases, multiple copies of those, and also filling in that back catalogue as well. There's always certain titles I want to have on the shelf, so I always order those in should they sell as well. So yeah, a really good busy week, and it'll hopefully be a busy next couple of weeks as well. I'll get certainly the releases coming next week, and then the week after is going to be the release of 3 Jokers, which is just getting bigger by the day. The pre-orders are just going up and up and up, and we have so many copies of it coming. So if you are interested in 3 Jokers, do get in touch. As I say, we do have tons coming, but the pre-orders are just going through the roof at the moment. It's easily going to be the biggest title in our sort of short 3-year history of the store anyway. This week as well, I got together with my cohorts Keith and Roddy. We recorded a reviews podcast. It was episode 99 of our podcast, which is quite the achievement, I think. We've been doing it for quite a while now. It's always great to hook up with those guys. We've been trying our best to get consistent content out there. We've had to do the last couple of review shows as monthly ones, but so they tend to be quite long. But we always put those chapter breaks in and those timestamps so people can go straight to the things that interest them. They don't have to necessarily listen to us babble on for 3 hours. But they're always great fun to do, and we really do hope we're going to get back to weekly content sometime soon. It allows us to streamline it. It allows us to have shorter shows, maybe go more in depth in certain titles, that kind of thing as well. So make sure to check it out. Episode 99 reviews. It covers the entire month of July. Tons of good stuff in there. Really good mix of DC, Marvel, and indie. Indie was actually the winner, and also we had a unanimous choice for pick of the month, which has never happened before. So it's monumental just for that in itself. So yeah, just check it out. All the podcasts are on the website, but also they're on Spotify, they're on Apple Podcasts, on SoundCloud. Anywhere you can find podcasts, really, you should be able to find at least a link to it anyway. So yeah, jumping on as well, I mentioned the website there, www.coffeeandheroes.com. Sales are starting to go well on it as well. People are enjoying those back issues. They're enjoying having a large library to look through. I uploaded around 200 new products this week. I focused on Spider-Man quite a bit, so there's quite a bit on there. One or two people have mentioned to me that they think you have to be specifically looking for something on the website. You have to use the search bar. If you look at the side, if you're looking at it on a desktop or an iPad, there is actually a breakdown of DC, Marvel, and then when you click into DC, it'll then break down into Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, that kind of thing, which will just allow you to browse that a little bit more easily. New article on there this week as well. We have a film reviewer coming on, James Oliver, a local guy who is going to be providing film reviews. I'll be honest, I don't always agree with his opinions, but they're always interesting, if nothing else. So check that out as well. I believe he's doing a bit of a Batman retrospective at the moment. If he says anything bad about any of the Christopher Nolan movies, he'll be kicked straight off the site, so don't worry, got your back. So yeah, and just a reminder as well with the store, if you do happen to be looking through it and you find titles that you would like, you don't have to select the postage option. You can click collect in store, and then once that sale comes through and is confirmed, we'll just pull it out, have it set aside, and you can call in whenever suits. Just means you're guaranteed that title and you're not having to wait with the postal service or having to pay the postage charges. So just something to think about as well. So as I say, this week was a good week in terms of titles. I started this thing last week where I was going to chat about my 3 favourite from the week. You may all be ridiculously shocked out there to learn that I have no DC titles this week. Well, I have loads of DC titles. There was loads of good stuff, but I like to, keep it interesting. But no, for my 3 picks of the week, I didn't pick any DC titles this week, just to, make it interesting. But yeah, so the 3 that stood out to me most this week, so we had Venom at number 27. This was one of the hottest issues of the week. We had first appearances galore. We had a really good story by Donny Cates as he continues this Venom Beyond story arc. This was part 2. This was another one of those ones we had to limit to 1 per customer, just simply because the eBay speculators were going through the roof on it. And we wanted to make sure we could get a copy into as many people's hands as possible. So we do have 1 or 2 left at the moment, but as I say, strictly 1 per customer. The one thing I would say is the art was not as good as the previous issues, but that's because Venom has always had a rotating roster of some of the best artists around. Obviously, you've got Rand Stegman, who kicked off this run with Donny Cates, but Mark Bagley's jumped in during the Venom Island arc. Iban Coelho's a great artist as well. This one was done by an artist, Juan Gideon, and I always feel weird criticizing artists because I can't even draw a stickman, and they're way more talented than me. But there was something about the art this time I thought was a little bit off with the rest of it, but the story really carried it through. So yeah, really dug that this week. That was Venom 27. Then we also had another one of my favourite indie titles, which is Something Is Killing the Children. We got up to issue 9 this week. This is the James Tynion Werther Deladera title, which literally is about something in the woods that is killing the children in this small town. Been one of our favourite titles for a long time. We recently got restocks in this week of the graphic novel, which covers the first arc, and I really can't recommend this enough. It is absolutely outstanding. If you like your horror stuff, a little bit of darkness, a story that's not afraid to take risks, and also just plays on those primal fears we all have of, something happening to, kids who maybe can't defend themselves as well. So it plays on those fears a lot as well. But this issue particularly stood out for me because the main character in it is essentially a demon hunter called Erica Slaughter, and this is her origin. So I thoroughly love this issue. Again, it can be a little tricky to get the single issues to this point, certainly the earlier first prints. But as I say, the trade is available, so check that out. It's another one of those staples in store now. Sells out, straight back in. So brilliant title, can't recommend it enough. Then one more that was actually a bit of a slow starter for me, and I struggled through the first couple of issues, but issue 4 really brought it all together. 6-issue miniseries called The Resistance. I should really have more faith that it was all going to come together good because this is J. Michael Straczynski. He of Rising Stars, he of Fantastic Four, he of the greatest Silver Surfer story ever told, Silver Surfer Requiem. Also creator of Babylon 5, I believe. But this is interesting enough, this is a title about a global pandemic that came from nowhere. No one understands it. It's wiping out half the population. I don't think it could be any more relevant if it tried. But as well as having those darker elements, it also incorporates superpower elements into it as well. And the story threads have been a little loose so far, but with this one, it just brought it all together. And this was a phenomenal issue. Easily my issue of the week, I have to say. So I'm sure I'll be chatting about it in the podcast down the line. But yeah, it's issue 4 of 6. This is an imprint I've talked about before called AWA, Artists, Writers and Artisans. And they seem to be focusing mostly on shorter stories. Everything they've announced so far or released so far is 5 issues, 6 issues. They're all mini-series. And I think that's a really clever way to do it, where people can get invested in the story, but not be worried that, they're going to have to stick with it for 2 years, or it might get cancelled when it's halfway through a story thread. So really recommend checking out AWA titles, as well as The Resistance. There's a great one called Hotel, which I really like, from John Lees, who's the writer of Sync. There's also another one launched recently called Bad Mother that was very good. But keep an eye out for them. I've been ordering them in and they've been selling well. So just if you see an upcoming one, get in touch and we'll get you sorted. So that was this week. What have we got coming next week? So next week, loads of great stuff as always, because when you read as much stuff as I do and you follow the amount of quality that's out there that I do, there's always great stuff coming. So next week's quite a heavy Indian Marvel week. A couple of good DC titles as well though. So the standouts certainly for me, you've got Batman 97, which is continuing Joker War. I've been thoroughly loving it so far. You've got Cable number 3 coming out, which is continuing in the Dawn of X line, as well as Captain America 22, which is recently got a little bit of an upsurge. I don't know if maybe Captain America's, a positive character and a positive role model, but the pull lists they've been slowly adding Captain America at the moment. Maybe we just need that little bit of hope in order. What else have we got? We've got the Dark Knight's Death Metal Guidebook coming, which I'm looking forward to just because I know Chip Zdarsky has contributed a story to that. We've got Dead Day number 2 coming. This is a title that I absolutely adore. This was one of my picks of the week. It's an Aftershock title about the dead coming back to life for one day of the year. But what sets it apart is it's not they just come back as mindless zombies. They come back as if they're still alive. Some of them are happy to reunite with lost loves for a day. Some are angry at how they died. So really, really cool title. You've got Decorum number 4 coming. So Jonathan Hickman's indie title with Mike Huddleston. I've got a whole pile of the Dollar Comics reprints coming in from DC. So these are essentially issues that cost £1 that are reprints of, starting points or bigger issues, that kind of thing. I always love to have plenty of those in stock because they're a good inexpensive way of maybe trying out a story without having to, commit to buying, £15 graphic novel or £20 graphic novel. So I've got everything there from Batman to Flashpoint to Green Lantern to Justice League to Superman. Tons of great stuff coming there. Got Empire X-Men number 4, so that's going to finish off the Empire X-Men tie-in. Talked about Hotel number 4, you've got that coming in. Got Harley Quinn 75 coming in, which is part of Joker War. It's also, I believe, the last issue of Harley for this run. And interestingly, there's a lot of speculation this is the death of Harley Quinn, so one to keep an eye out for. Got Nightwing 73, also part of Joker War tie-ins. A couple of great indie titles coming this week that we've been waiting on for quite some time. I've obviously talked about how the indie stuff at the moment, the release dates are all over the place, so I can never guarantee something until it's on this invoice. But you've got the last issue coming of Old Guard, Force Multiplied, so number 5 of that. And also Once in Future. I saw on the invoice number 10 was coming and started panicking because we've still to receive number 9. But then just below it is number 9 as well, so there's going to be a double hit this week. You've got Star Wars Bounty Hunters number 4 coming, Thor number 6, that's going to be a big one I reckon. Always great when a new issue of Thor's coming out. Got Wolverine number 4 coming as well. Valkyrie Jane Foster's coming back, that's another one of those titles that was shifted to digital only, but then they've decided to start doing the printings again, so great to see that back. And then one to finish on, which is again be one of my personal favourites and a great example of the Black Label DC format. Wonder Woman Dead Earth number 4 is out, which is the Daniel Warren Johnson title. Brilliant title, and one that I will definitely push when the trades come out as well, because it's a great Wonder Woman story that again not enough people are reading, so I will do my best to do something about that. One thing I should say as well about next week is we got an absolute mountain of merch coming in terms of statues and figures. I've ordered a lot through Diamond, I've ordered a lot through Heo. All of that should be here by sort of Tuesday, Wednesday. But I've got so much good stuff coming next week. There's Mandalorian statues, there's Darth Maul statues, there's Rocketeer, there's Batman, there's Miles Morales Spider-Man, there's Justice League figures. So keep an eye out for that. I'm sure I'll do a what's in the box video for it, just to guide you through all the latest stuff coming into the store. And yeah, there's some really great stuff in there. I have to admit one of them is just for me, so apologies in advance if you like the thing that I ordered for myself, but I'm sure I can order another one. And then just one last little note as well, we got our grading notes through from CGC for the 20 single issues that I sent. Delighted to say that everything I sent over got a 9.6 or above. I think it was 4 titles got a 9.6 and then 16 got a 9.8. I'm not going to lie, I sent away the Negan Lives gold and silver foil editions and they both get 9.8s. I haven't seen another 9.8 in the UK so far. A lot of stores seem to get really bad luck with issues arriving with creases in them. Because it's a cardstock cover, the slightest knock to it creates a spine tick, and you're never ironing that out because it's on a cardstock cover. And we got really, really lucky with it, and I'm absolutely over the moon to get 9.8s for those issues. So, and also I should add as well, just chatting about image and so forth. And Negan lives in Walking Dead. I managed to procure an Image Skybound mystery box, which was about 3 weeks ago. Image Skybound were doing their own sort of online Comic Con, and they were doing this. They sold out in something like 18 hours, but I managed to get one, and it's on the way. It should be coming next week. So again, I'll do a cool unboxing video for that as well. So something else to keep an eye out for. But yeah, with the CGC stuff, as I say, they essentially provided the grading notes for us, but they haven't been sent back yet. So as soon as those arrive back, we'll know final pricing and we'll be able to start opening that up for people. Please don't just rush to me, all of you, with your Venom 3s, which is inevitable given how hot it is at the moment. But we will be offering that service, and the turnaround time in general at the moment seems to be about 7 weeks. What we'll be doing is we'll be sending it off in batches of 25. So it'll be a first come, first served. As soon as we get 25 issues in ready to be sent, then we'll send everything off and we'll keep people informed along the way. So yeah, really excited to get that going, and it's another notch for the store and another service we can provide as well. So yeah, good stuff all around this week. That pretty much takes care of all the store stuff and also my own personal titles and all the rest. But it's time now to jump onto the news for the week. I'm going to start off with a little bit of Marvel bits and pieces. There was a new event announced by Marvel this week, which is coming from the team of Jason Aaron, Ed McGuinness and Javier Garron. It's going to be coming through Avengers, and it says exit the Age of Khonshu, enter the Phoenix. So it's obviously bringing the Phoenix back again. So that is going to start in December. So December clearly is going to be a big month for Marvel, between King and Black coming out then, and also to do with this. So this will be interesting to keep an eye out on. Anything Jason Aaron is always worth jumping onto anyway. And to be honest, Avengers has been pretty big recently. You know, it's been incorporating Moon Knight into it. The pulls for it are going up a little bit at the moment as well. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. Another really cool piece of news I saw, and it's more speculation than news, I suppose, but there was recently a show on YouTube called Morning Warm Up, and Joe Quesada was chatting with Todd McFarlane. And Todd McFarlane was saying that for many years now, he's had an idea in his head for a Spawn Spider-Man crossover. Obviously, that was where he made his name, was through Spider-Man at Marvel, and then obviously the creation of Spawn. But he's always said that he's had requests for it for years. He meets people at conventions, he does panels. This is always the thing people ask about. And the exact quote was, "I'm just saying to do that crossover if it happens," and he's not saying it ever will, but if it ever comes to it, he will write it, pencil it, and ink it. So Marvel, yeah, you might want to get on the phone to Todd, and I think that would sell massively, because Spawn is still a big draw. Spider-Man will never not be a big draw, and having McFarlane back on Spider-Man as well, given his sort of era-defining run on it, would be big business. So we move away from the Marvel stuff and on to that sort of negative news that I was alluding to at the start. So this week there was a massive culling at DC / Warner Brothers / AT&T, where they reportedly laid off around 8,000 staff. And DC Comics and DC Universe, which is their mobile app that you've probably never heard of, because they never released it outside of America. This always astounded me. DC Universe was essentially the home for brand new DC content in terms of the shows, things like Titans, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing. They were also going to have an online catalogue of all of their comics ever released, and then they'd have all the DC movies on there. There would also be access to like statues and figurines that you could only get if you were a DC Universe member. But they never released it outside the UK, which meant it didn't have a chance straight away. You look at Disney Plus, you look at Netflix, you look at Amazon Prime. These are all available worldwide, and they missed the trick with this one. But apparently DC Comics has been hit by this quite a bit as well. Roughly 1/3 of DC's editorial ranks, and one of the main ones was editor-in-chief Bob Harris, who's an industry legend, worked at Marvel, worked at DC. He's been let go. There's been other vice presidents let go, and one that did stick out, I have to say, was Mark Doyle, who oversaw the rollout of the Black Label stuff. Now this surprises me because Black Label has been very, very popular. There is a rumor going around that the reason this has happened is that they're still feeling slight embarrassment over when Batman Damned came out, and that had the first appearance of the Batawang. And apparently this embarrassed a lot of people. I always thought it was stupid that they got embarrassed by this, because When that happened in Batman Damned, which was inconsequential to the story and a blink and you'll miss it moment, read into that what you will, but it made the front page of like the New York Times and stuff, and comics never make that kind of impact. You know, the movies do and the TV shows do. But what they should have done is rushed out a second print, jumped on this, be like the comic that's so hot everybody's talking about it, but they tried to brush it under the carpet, and then they removed the offending article in the digital version of the comic. So that's very, very strange. But the one good thing that did come out of this is Jim Lee is still on board and he remains DC Chief Creative Officer. And there was an interview with him just a couple of days later with the Hollywood Reporter. And he was asked point blank, you know, given the pandemic, behind the scenes shakeups, you know, what's going on with comics. And he basically said they're still the cornerstone of the company. Absolutely 100%. It is still the cornerstone of everything that we do. The need for storytelling, updating the mythology is vital to what we do. The organisation leans on us to share and establish the meaningful elements of the content that they need to use and incorporate for all their adaptations. When we think about reaching global audiences, and we see comics as helping drive that awareness and the international brand, and it's very much part of our future. He did say they're going to be reducing the slate a little bit, looking at around 20%, just things that aren't selling well or things that haven't proved as popular. But the thing is with that, and it goes back to what I was saying with what I like with AWA do, and this applies to Marvel as well, I really wish they would just stop announcing ongoing titles that they don't know are going to sell. Just do 6-issue arcs, do 6-issue miniseries. If they don't sell well, no harm, no foul. You've done 6 issues, so you therefore have a trade to put out there, and then the trade might find an audience down the line. But if it does well, you announce a second volume. It doesn't seem like rocket science to me, and you know these people are far more clever than me and far more insightful than me. So how they don't see this as an obvious way to release new content that maybe it's a little bit risky. You know, if you put Batman on a book or Superman on a book, it's gonna sell. If you put Spider-Man on a book or Venom on a book, it's gonna sell. But these sort of smaller characters, if you will, or these black label titles, you know, things like The Question's a good example. The Question is one of the best books DC are producing, but they were smart about it. They put it in black label and made it 4 issues. Hellblazer's another example, one of the best books DC have put out in years, the best Constantine run in years. And they said it was an ongoing, and now there's been an announcement that that's coming to an end at issue 11, which I'll get into that stuff in a minute. But, you know, just stop saying they're all ongoing books. They don't need to be ongoing books. Just announce them as 6-issue runs, smaller volumes, and you're good to go, because that way you always have the safety net of the graphic novel. But there you go. But yeah, comics, they go through peaks and valleys. You know, there's times when the art form is really, really popular and, you know, it's everywhere. And then there's other times that maybe it struggles. But I like to think that comics will always be here. You know, it's a fantastic medium, great storytelling medium. It's got the most freedom of any creative medium, if you ask me. So, yeah, let's finish on the negative stuff now, which I have just one more thing to talk about. And then I'll move on to some slightly more positive stuff. But yeah, so DC, with them doing their shake-ups, and as I was saying, they're going to be cutting some of their slate. There are a few titles that are going to be finishing in November. So Young Justice is coming to an end. Teen Titans is coming to an end. Hawkman is coming to an end. Suicide Squad's coming to an end. This really upsets me. Although Tom Taylor did come out and say it wasn't cancelled, that's their natural finish. And Tom Taylor is one of those writers who would exist perfectly in that world I just described of doing shorter runs, because, you know, Deceased was 6 issues, and then they were like, this sold well. Here's Deceased Unkillables 3-issue maxi series. That sold well. Here's Deceased Dead Planet. And, you know, his Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man run was 16 issues. I would have preferred that to be longer. But he said it wasn't cancelled. This was their natural storytelling end. But yeah, they also cancelled Hellblazer, and that one really hurt, because Hellblazer, again, has been, certainly in our store, it has been easily the biggest selling Sandman Universe title, and people were just delighted to have a kick-ass John Constantine back, so that one hurts as well. So if I had to speculate, these cancellations are all coming at a time where metal will be coming to an end in November, December. I fear we've got another reboot coming, but again, that's just purely speculation. I have a feeling we're going to go back to all the number ones. They're going to do something similar to the New 52, where they release all these number ones, they see what's popular, and they stick with those. But we'll wait and see. So yeah, that is hopefully the end of the negative news. I'm going to move on to some slightly more positive stuff. So there was an announcement this week. So Punchline has become a really big character in the Batman Joker War run. There is going to be a Punchline one-shot title coming up in November, which has a pretty cool cover, as you can just see just there. So this is very much a creation of James Tynion, and I believe he is writing it. And art is by Mirka Andolfo. I mean, that alone is enough to get me in. Mirka Andolfo, such a unique artist. Her work is phenomenal, and there's a great title she does at the moment called Mercy, which once that hits trade, I'm going to be pushing a lot in the store as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. You know, I'm always a big fan of one-shots, especially when they're going into origins or backstories, that kind of thing. There's an interesting one that is being announced, and I only just saw this story this morning, but I thought it was worth bringing up. We know how much Alan Moore hates DC Comics, and with a lot of good reason, given how they treat him over Watchmen. But they're actually going to publish his Twilight of the Superheroes outline this year. So Alan Moore basically had this idea for an ambitious comic book crossover that was called Twilight of the Superheroes. Now, it's never had a page drawn, it's never had an artist assigned, and DC never even commissioned it, but it became sort of the stuff of legend. But it's now been released that they're going to release Twilight of the Superheroes, but they're essentially going to be releasing the complete proposal for it. So it'll go into all the backstory that Moore wrote for it, probably the scripts, maybe some sketches, maybe some character designs. So yeah, it's going to be out in December. It's going to be called DC Through the 80s, The End of Eras. So it's a 520-page hardcover that will run $50, so probably £45 there, thereabouts. For the most part, it's going to feature things like Moore's Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow and some Detective Comics issues that were big and Flash issues, that kind of thing. But it will also feature the complete text of Alan Moore's legendary, never-before-published Twilight proposal. So it was a story framed around characters such as John Constantine and Rip Hunter traveling to the present day with knowledge of a potential future. In that world, the superheroes have become dynasties and ruled over the planet, including institutions like the House of Steel, led now by Superman, who was married to Wonder Woman, the House of Thunder, the Marvel family. No one from the DC universe was left out, though, and the Teen Titans and Justice League had their own houses as well. Then there's also non-superpowered heroes led by the Dark Knight himself, plus all of the aliens that would inhabit the Earth. It just sounds like the coolest idea ever of combining everything about the mythology of comics into one big story. But there are shaky copyright stuff to this. Obviously, they're going to be putting in Marvel stuff. Although House of Thunder, the Marvel family in this case, is actually Shazam. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that comes. He did say about this when in the introduction to the proposal, it would have been a sensible and logical reason for crossing over with other titles so that the readers who were prompted to try a new title as a result of the crossover or vice versa didn't feel cheated by some tenuous linkage of storylines that was at best spurious and at worst non-existent. It would provide a strong and resonant springboard from which to launch a number of new series or with which to revitalise old ones again in a manner that was obviously not crassly exploitative so as to insult the reader's intelligence. So lots of big words as ever from Alan Moore. But that sounds really class. The book itself sounds great. Nice, big, massive deluxe hardcover. But the introduction of that interesting content fills me with quite a bit of joy. Another one that got brought back this week that was originally announced a couple of years ago. We took pre-orders for it. It was solicited and then it just disappeared without a trace. It was a title called The Other History of the DC Universe. And it was a comic from 12 Years a Slave screenwriter John Ridley. It's now been resolicited for November. And what this is, it's going to center around minority heroes in the DCU. So people like Black Lightning, his daughter Thunder, Renee Montoya, Katana. And what it was going to do was it was going to re-explore key events from DC's lore from the perspective of these characters and chronicle their respective struggles to embrace their true selves. So it sounds really class because it's almost a way of showing massive events but from another angle, from another perspective. Was always looking forward to this. The pre-orders on it were very strong and I really hope this is here to stay. It's going to be a Black Label title. I believe it is going to be probably just 4 issues like most Black Label titles. But yeah, sounds awesome. And also another one through Black Label was announced was Sweet Tooth, the return of this. This is a Jeff Lemire title that was originally through Vertigo. It's recently been picked up, I believe, for a Netflix TV show that I think Robert Downey Jr. is producing. So they're going to do a return series, and it's a 6-issue limited series. Apparently, Jeff Lemire's a massive Twin Peaks fan as well. So the fact that he calls this Sweet Tooth the return, I don't think is a coincidence, given the Twin Peaks return. Just a couple more small things just to go through. So I've been chatting a lot about DC Fandom, which is going to be next weekend. I have to pre-warn you, I will not be in the store on Saturday because this is a 24-hour streamed event and I will be soaking up everything I can. But they've recently announced the schedule for it, which you can find online easily enough, but just to run you through the things I'm most looking forward to. So some of the panels, you've got Wonder Woman 1984, you've got a Warner Brothers Games Montreal announcement, which we believe is going to be the next Batman game. You've got a panel on Sandman, you've got a panel on the Flash movie, you've got a panel for James Gunn's Suicide Squad, panel for the Snyder Cut, panel for Black Adam, which I believe The Rock is going to be part of. You've got a panel for Aquaman, Shazam, Rocksteady Games, Suicide Squad, which now has a new subtitle, which is Kill the Justice League. Then you've also got the Batman as well, which is going to be the Matt Reeves one. But you've also got, various TV panels as well, focusing on things from The Flash to Pennyworth to Stargirl, Superman and Lois, all sorts. And there's already been some comic announcements as well. Tom King's going to have a panel there. Scott Snyder's going to have a panel there. So this is essentially the online Comic-Con for DC Comics, and I'm really looking forward to it, especially given the news that we've just had with DC, the negative stuff. I mean, the timing's not great. The problem is with bad news, there's never a good time to tell it, but it can be a little shaky going from bad news to here's the good news. But yeah, keep an eye out for Fandom because I think it's going to be a brilliant event, and it's great that there's so much content and announcements coming to us. They also announced all those titles I was chatting about earlier, the HBO Max streaming service that's coming soon. So as well as obviously the massive draw of the Snyder Cut, they're now going to be getting all that DC Universe content I was talking about. So new seasons of Doom Patrol, new seasons of Titans, that kind of thing. So at least there is going to be, they are going to be saved to a degree. And then just one final bit, and of course I had to finish on some bad news, didn't I? But Halo Infinite has been delayed, which is a bit of a shame. It was originally due out later this year, but it's now going to be sometime in 2021, which is always worrying when a game gets moved to sort of sometime, a generic release date. I really wish they'd just work on things behind the scenes and then announce a release date 3 months before something comes out, because you inevitably lead to disappointment with this kind of stuff. People who were looking forward to it. And Halo's that big a property that, Microsoft may get their asses in gear and get it out there, because especially once they're going to launch the Xbox Series X, they're going to want Halo there at the ground level. So, yeah, I mean, it's understandable, obviously, everything that's happened with COVID and, delays being hit everywhere. So it's kind of expected, but again, I just hate when things are given release dates and then they don't make those release dates. Just wait until it's nearly finished. But again, it's all my plans, just to, sort the word of it. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. That is the Coffee and Heroes show for August 16th. Again, by the time I have the next show going, we will have seen DC Fandom and seen a lot of that footage, so I'm sure I'll have a lot of stuff to talk about next week. May even do a special YouTube show on that myself. We've also got the What's in the Box stuff next week for all that merchandise. And again, make sure to check out the podcast, guys, which was recently recorded, the reviews podcast for July. So, as I say, I'll leave it there. I hope everyone out there is staying safe. I hope you're all enjoying comics. I just finished my entire pull list this morning, which is really depressing. So I'm going to have to go into my various back catalogue to find something to read. Ah well. Stay safe out there, guys. Take it easy.